Hi, welcome back to Alter My Closet. I'm Jennifer. Hope you're all doing well today. Today's video is a continuation of my previous video where I spoke about vintage mood. And it's so funny how the title came about because I was thinking of my mood, to add to the word vintage to give that title. And then I remembered that mood is where I also bought the fabric from. So that kind of came together, nicely. It wasn't planned, but I just wanted to point that out. Yay. But as you can see, I am wearing the top that I did in the previous video. And I just wanted to show how you can change it up, So here I have the top on with some black slacks. And this is my favorite piece of jewelry. I just love it. It's very light. It has the pearls to it and everything. But it's always nice to wear a piece of jewelry that's low hanging. I personally just like the look. And I know, I've seen a lot of women that styles their outfits with the longer necklaces. Okay, so I have some black heels on, and these are around the ankle. Okay, so yeah, just to show how you can make another outfit out of that piece that I showed you in the previous video that I made. It was handmade by myself with the help of my mom with the lining. I also wanted to point out how thin this fabric is, and that's the reason why it was lined. I have to wear something under it. So this is just a camisole that I put under it. But yeah, this is how thin that fabric is. Hence the reason for the lining of the skirt, right? So yeah, I wanted to show the other pieces that I was talking about that were also purchased. The fabrics, they were purchased at the same time with this back in the 1990s at a store called Mood in New York City. And I wanted to also point out that that store is actually on 37th Street in New York. I did say I mentioned 35th or 38th Street. So yeah, I did look it up and it's on 37th Street. So it's still there. Yeah. So just wanted to show, like I said, the other two pieces. I did show this in a previous video, and I was saying I was going to do some alteration to this. So this is a top, and it's the Jean Paul Gaultier, I guess, brand of fabric. And so that's the top. And here goes the skirt. So I did a little bit of alteration on the top because some of the, like in the neck area right here was coming, it was kind of coming apart, So I was able to stitch that up. And I think under the arm as well here, I was able to stitch that as well. And the skirt, I wanted to use up all the fabric on there. So the skirt was really, really long. But I always got compliments on when I wore the outfit back in New York. And even here. No, I haven't worn it. I probably worn it once since I moved to Tennessee. And I wore it a couple of times in Atlanta. Got some compliments. I actually wore it to work. So the skirt, like I said, is long, and what happened was we made it to where we could run a piece of elastic through the waist. So it's just an elastic waist straight skirt, but the fabric just started kind of like coming apart also. So I cut away the piece that was coming apart, and what I'm going to do is to make a new, I guess hemming you would call it, to run the elastic through. Okay, so I'm gonna just go ahead and make my allowance there. What you would do in this case, is to make sure to measure the elastic width to the amount of fabric that is needed, right? So would be about that. I'm not using a tape measure, so I'm just kind of like eyeballing as I usually do, but you're also welcome to use a tape measure to measure the width of your elastic to the width of how much fabric you're going to need to turn in to run the elastic through. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so like I was saying, when you are making the allowance for your elastic, if you're doing an elastic waist skirt, you can use a tape measure and measure the width of your elastic to the amount of fabric that you're going to need for the allowance, right? And when you do that, you can go around the full width of the skirt, and you can use some pins, right? And you can hold it in place with the pins, right? Go around and stitch the turning that you're going to be turning in, right? And what you're going to do, for those of you who don't know, is to leave a little bit where you can run your elastic through. Now, this is not the only way that you can do an elastic waist skirt. There are other ways that you can do it, but this is one of my easier ways to do that. Okay, so you're going to start from one seam of the skirt to the other, go around all the way and meet back at that seam, but you're going to leave that little bit out where you can insert your, so I used a safety pin on my elastic, and I'm using black elastic, and you start off with inserting it there. Okay, so this especially is for all my beginners who wanted to know how to easily insert or make an elastic waist skirt. So I am going through, and while I'm pulling my elastic through the skirt, I'm making sure that the elastic lays flat on the inside of the skirt. Okay, so as I go around to the full width of the skirt, I am making sure to flatten the elastic. So one question would be, how do you know how much elastic to use? So it just depends on, your measurements, and how much, how wide and how stretchy you want the skirt. Also, how stretchy the elastic is, because you do have some elastic that's really tight, so it just depends. So what I would do first, if I'm making it for myself, is probably just to kind of stretch it and go around my waist first with the elastic, and then run it through the skirt first. And if, there's excess, just to cut that excess. So after running it through, right? It meets back up at the beginning, and then I'm going to make a stitch right there on the end of the elastic. Okay, so let me go ahead and do that. And I hope you guys are all having a wonderful day. Okay, so I did run the stitch the elastic, and I reversed back and forth to make sure it's secure. Okay, make sure it's secure, and then I go ahead and straighten it out in my skirt. So that is what it will look like. My elastic is a little twisted, but I'll go ahead and straighten that out. But just, you know, like I said, just to make sure that you are straightening your elastic when you're running it through your skirt. So, okay, I was able to go ahead and straighten that out. And as you can see, that looks flat right there. So before I show you that outfit that I just altered with the elastic in the waist, I wanted to show you this before changing off the jewelry. As I mentioned before, I like to wear, you know, silver with white and, you know, those kind of tone colors. So I do have, you know, these jewelry, silvery white, you know, with pearls and stuff like that, that I believe would go with this dress. I have never worn this dress since it was made, along with that outfit that I just changed, the top of it. In another video, I showed the whole outfit, which is a skirt and the top, and of course I, you know, hooked it up with the jeans jacket there. But this dress was made at the same time when that outfit was made, and that was in the 90s. It was right before 2000. I'm trying to remember the exact time, but you know, that was a long time ago. And so this skirt, my mom actually helped me with this one as well. And we did some splits on the side and some darts right here. You know, because when you put the darts in your dress, it gives it that shape. So yeah, this is just you know, kind of it's a little bit of a all-in-one sleeve, you know, so it's not cut in to where it's like curved. It's, you know, all-in-one. So I can remove the pants, but of course I had the pants on with that top just now. So I said, let me keep the pants on and see what it looks like. So I believe this could be worn with some tights or not. You know, it can always be removed. But this is what the dress looks like. And, you know, just wearing it with these shoes. But like I said, the pants are not necessary. Let me see if I can go ahead and just remove the pants. Hold on one second. Yeah, for the sake of time, you know, with buckling, unbuckling and buckling the shoe, I didn't want to take the pants off. You know, but just for the sake of time. It wasn't because I'm lazy. It's just the sake of time. And you know how I feel with my previous videos when I talk about buckles. Okay? I just rather just zip my shoes up and go. But yeah, that's what it looks like without the pants. Yeah, I don't think the pants are necessary, like I said, unless the split was like all the way up to here. Like, who knows? Maybe I could do that, just um, bring the splits up to here and wear some tights with it. I think that would be cute. But yeah, let me know what you think about this dress. But yeah, I'm gonna have to break this out and go ahead and wear it. And it will be also in memory of my mom. This dress was kind of hard to, not the dress, but the fabric was kind of hard to maneuver because it has a little netting over, the lining under it, which it's made like that, but it was kind of hard to maneuver because of this little netting thing. So when you're sewing this, you had to make sure that you had the netting sitting right on top of the lining part. So I'm loving the dress. It can be worn with cardigan or without cardigan. I thought about this white sheer lacy blouse. Let me see what that looks like. If that could be a look. If you want to put something over it. Maybe. And then I thought about maybe putting it under the dress. So that's an option too, just depending on the look that you're going for. Let's see about folding up the sleeve, what that will look like. But this will be nice for the summertime. And like I said, just if you want to cover your arms, maybe something like this would work. Or maybe a sheer, plain instead of the flowery design on it. You could probably use just a plain sheer white, something see-through. But yeah, options. Okay. All right, are you ready for this? I tell you, I just love this fabric. When I tell you it sits so nicely, takes the shape of whoever and whatever you are. It's so cool, such a relaxed feel, and I'm glad I'm able to reinvent this outfit because I really love it. It is a two-piece, as you saw, where I did the elastic in the waist. The length is a little bit better than it was before because before I used to pull it all the way up to under here. And I could still do that and pull it over like a tube top dress and wear, something, over it open. So, yeah, that's an option. But before I used to just pull it up all the way here and, and then it would, like sit pretty much where it is right now. And then I'd put the blouse on. But tell me what you guys think. This one has a little bit more sleeve than the dress that I just changed out. And as you can see, all three outfits have different, I guess, look as far as where the sleeve goes. This one here has a 3/4 sleeve is what they call that. Right? So that's that. And then you have this, which is right by the bicep, I guess. And then the dress that I just changed off, right? So, yeah, when we made those, that was some differences in the way the garments looked, right? All right, so, yeah. And this is the length of this blouse, which it sits nicely right here. I love where it stops. It's not too short. So I'm loving that. but very comfortable. These are my shoes. And I'm wearing this bracelet here. I kept on the white watch. That's my necklace. Loving this necklace. This is another favorite piece of mine. And these earrings, guys, are so vintage. I had these earrings for so long. I think these were also from, my New York days. So yeah, I just feel so vintage. That's probably gonna be my new thing, this vintage look. But you know me, I like to do the cover up. So let's see how this looks. It might take away from the look, but let's try. Okay, so I am having some technical difficulties. I think I ran out of storage, and there's something also going on with my app. So, yeah, um, I do want to post my video because, I am just loving the content. I'm excited about my pieces that I have reinvented and will be able to wear, for the summertime here. Especially that dress. Like I said, I've never worn the dress before, so I'm, you know, um, yeah, just ready to wear that. But please like, comment, and subscribe. So I can have some conversation out there in the YouTube world. I think that's what I was saying in the last part of the video. But I hope you like the content. Um, yeah, and you guys will see me on the next video. Bye.